Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today let's go over the market. Unfortunately, the market decided to go pretty bad today, and Tesla unfortunately down almost 5% today so far. The market's actually literally just closed. So yeah, down 4.74%, ending just above 150, which is, like I said yesterday, an extremely crucial level, right? This is a level like around this level, give or take, like, maybe 2 or 3 points or something like that. Personally, is a level I would really want to hold, ideally, mainly because, again, if you go back on the weekly chart, you can see this was a pretty, this is pretty important level in my opinion, at least, right around this kind of general level right here, like, 150 to like 147-ish, something like that, right? And if that falls, we're probably going to come down to 136 for sure. If that falls, we're most likely drop down all the way to 120s, and then possibly like somewhere even as low as 118, maybe even like 110, right? Those are the kind of major overall levels, but this is the first major one, like truly major level, that I personally think at the very least we should hold, and at the very least get some bounce off of this, some form of relief bounce before potentially even going further down. It's hard to say for sure yet, but as of right now, obviously Tesla is still on an ultimate downtrend until something can essentially say otherwise. And the only pretty much realistic thing is, what do you know, yet another potential inverted head and shoulders setting up if we could potentially get something like this at this point, right? It kind of, it gets hard to believe that that'll actually play out, because we've had so many different setups of inverted head and shoulders and double bottoms that pretty much failed every single time, because every single time, literally, like unironically, Elon sold as it was potentially in the process of playing out for the bullish side, and then Elon sold, which completely just destroyed everything in the market. A Tesla stock at least just pretty much rallied to the downside, unfortunately, quite aggressively, right? So before we go any further, by the way, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy it. None of this is financial advice. Make your own decisions, do your own research as per usual, but yeah, so let's dissect this. So today was the triple witching day, right? So just essentially, a lot of volatility. But the overall main thing I would personally note is the fact that, again, today is obviously an overall, fairly red day in the market. I mean, the SPY was down almost 2%, approaching 2%, pretty close to it, right? So, and QQQ down about 1%. So tech in a weird way doing better, though it's kind of hard to believe considering even Apple was down 1.5. But nonetheless, right, the point that I want to mention here is the fact that the VIX is red on a decently red day for the market. So the fact that the VIX is showing this kind of weakness on a day where the market is not crashing, but like definitely showing some decent signs of weakness, to me, again, as I said before, is a suspicious sign, right? When the VIX is red with the market being red, that to me is a sign that at least some form of bullish reversal is going to happen, whether it's a short term, longer term, medium term. Some bounce is on its way, like right around the corner. It could be tomorrow or Monday, it could be Tuesday. Something like that is what I'm personally expecting. And that kind of fits in with what I see what's happening with Tesla here, right? So we had a pretty decent reaction yesterday, especially considering the market was extremely red yesterday, especially, right? So that was good. Unfortunately, today we gave it all up as we kind of follow the market. I would still definitely argue this is an underperformance by Tesla. Some people were arguing that maybe Elon's selling more. Today is technically the final day he can sell before the earnings call happens, kind of the second half of January, so just FYI. Now, thankfully, we're still having this bullish divergence play out, and we definitely absolutely want to see a bounce from here. This is starting to get very close to not playing out, which would be, in my opinion, a very unfortunate thing to see. So if we're going to bounce anywhere, it really needs to be pretty much right around this 150 level, give or take like maybe 2 points, maybe slightly red start, open on Monday, and then we reverse, and then hopefully set up a potential more obvious bullish reversal, the candle, for instance, or something like that, maybe like a hammer candle on Monday, right? Something like that would be fantastic to see, to really confirm that at the very least we'll come up to reverse to the top side of potentially this channel, the blue channel, which will also conversely come up with the 21 EMA, which will still kind of slowly follow us down as we come up, right? Which again, around that 175-ish, give or take, level should be that resistance that we'll be looking at. So potentially 170-ish for Tesla next week, in my opinion, is a very realistic possibility. We'll see, of course. Nothing is for absolute certain. You can see the market is starting to finally get some bounces, some pretty massive gap downs on this market. So I wouldn't be surprised if the market potentially rallies to 400, like SPY and stuff like that, which would from here for at least SPY be a run of about 4%, which is pretty decent, and then for the QQQ would be somewhere around 5%, right? So that's just something to consider. You can see the QQQ actually holding a lot better than the general S&P 500 or SPY as well, right? So interesting to note as well. Now, again, the one thing to mainly pay attention to, in my opinion, here is again the 150s being a pretty crucial level. So I absolutely want to see a bounce from this general level right here, like right now, like literally Monday or Tuesday for sure, right? On top of that, we are of course still in this overall blue channel, which we are essentially at the bottom of right now, give or take, right? We're pretty much testing the bottom part of this channel once again. And on top of that, if you go on the smaller time frame, we're in this kind of little yellow descending wedge, if you will, or channel as well, which you can definitely make the argument for, right? Which is another thing that I would definitely want to see Tesla go ahead and break out of. We almost did over here, but we got stuck back up and pretty much just had a fairly aggressive sell at the first half of this, or the first like third of the day, which people were kind of arguing maybe it's Elon selling on his final potential day of selling that he's allowed to for Twitter, for, you know, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing in the very moment, guys. Other than, of course, what I have already mentioned in the previous videos, that is, you know, of course, more or less still intact. Like I said yesterday, for the bears, really want to see this kind of 150-ish level really start to fail and break down under, and the bulls don't want to see that. So the fact that we held it so far, though we're of course on thin ice, is a good sign. But again, you know, it's a pretty spooky market. It's a pretty volatile market, right? Things can change just like that, and things can get, for better or for worse, you know, they can change that like extremely quickly in a market like this. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I personally am not doing anything completely stupid. I'm not going into leverage or, you know, aka margin. I'm not going into any of that. I'm playing with money I have and money that I can always transfer in if I need to. It's nothing that is, you know, due, you know, with interest or anything like that at all. It's just all my personal money that I can do, and I'm not doing any short-term trades other than potential trades that will only just force me to buy shares at prices I probably was going to buy anyways. That's what I'm personally doing right now, aka selling puts. And then once Tesla finally gets some kind of relief, we'll see how it goes, and I'll probably look to sell calls against that as well. But we'll see, of course, what that ends up turning into. If we at this point can even fathom getting some form of relief rally, it feels like it's almost impossible. But, you know, it is going to be coming, right? Just as a lot of people remember back still a few weeks ago, back when we were all the way up here and it just felt like there was nothing stopping Tesla, and it was just, man, it just felt impossible for this stock to crash. We were at 300 and it just felt like, man, there's no way this thing is going to fall. Like it just felt like incomprehensible, right? Just like, why would it fall? It just feels amazing. The euphoria was just so high. And you know, again, I tend to be always very early when I mention these things, right? Here, I was definitely too early mentioning that I think it's going to crash. I think it's going to crash. And I did talk about, you know, my overall levels, how I thought 150 was like the realistic worst case scenario, or not worst case scenario, but like pretty damn bad case scenario, which, surprise, surprise, already here much faster than I expected, I'll be completely honest. But you know, it's just the point is it's similar to this situation, just flipped, right? Back when we were just rallying and it just felt like nothing can stop Tesla. The market was falling, but Tesla was just rallying, and it's just, man, this thing is unstoppable. Well, it'll never see like 200 again, let alone 150. And here we are, right? So it's just kind of the same kind of principle or case, I guess, if you will, here, where it just feels like, man, Tesla will never go back up again, right? It feels like that, right? It just feels like, man, we're all the way at 150. This thing just keeps falling, and it just feels like, man, this thing will just continue falling down to like $50 at this rate or something like that, right? Is what it feels like. But again, you know, just kind of wanted to give you guys, you know, a perspective. Back when it felt like it'll never drop, it absolutely crashed. It didn't just drop, it crashed. Same concept here, just flipped, right? Just because it feels like it'll never stop doesn't mean, you know, it actually won't get an actual bounce at some point, and potentially even, of course, over the longer time frame, go up once again to potentially even, you know, break into new all-time highs. And I strongly believe it will happen. I'm extremely confident it will, though of course it doesn't mean it's going to happen this year. Well, definitely not this year. I mean, I'm more like 2023. Might not even be 2024 in terms of, you know, breaking new all-time highs, right? It might be like end of 2024 or something like that before we finally break new all-time highs, right? Who knows, right? It's hard to say for sure, especially with the macroeconomic as it is. But I definitely believe it will. It'll definitely take years, a couple of years at least, in my opinion. So that's just my opinion. Again, could be completely incorrect, right? Take it as you will, not financial advice. But that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys. The final thing I do want to look at very quickly is going to be the weekly chart. So as you kind of zoom out over here, let's remove the things for now. You can see, you know, definitely looking, you know, overall pretty bearish, right? It's just not looking very healthy. The chart is looking ultimately that it's still, without question, in a downward trend. We unfortunately did lose this kind of level over here that I didn't want to lose, which is that kind of 180-ish, which we did absolutely lose. This is the first weekly candle we are really truly closing underneath it, like very obviously, which isn't great. So yeah, we'll see, guys. You know, in my view, there's one of two things that can happen. Either one, this is a massive bear trap and we rally back up and we break above 180, potentially set up an inverted head and shoulders on the weekly, and then, you know, the bottom is in. That's option one. Option two is a slightly more not slightly, but fairly more bearish alternative is we come back up to about 180, retest this level that we, held for so long and kind of, really truly held for a while that, it kept seeming like it might fall below, but it didn't. And then we retest that because again, old support is new resistance and vice versa, right? So again, it might come back up to all the way to this 180-ish level, somewhere around here that we consistently kept holding and holding and holding. And that can potentially be our relief rally back up to, about that general level. And then, we most likely get rejected because now it becomes new resistance, aka, from old support to new resistance, get rejected, and then potentially either come back down to, at the very least, 150 once again. I would be surprised if we don't, or potentially even make new lows and come down to one of these levels down here, maybe 130, maybe even as low as 120, right? But that's essentially the bearish alternative, which I personally think overall is more likely. However, in the short term, I would be genuinely surprised if we don't get a relief rally to around that 175-ish level, give or take like 5 points, between 170 to 180. I would be genuinely surprised if we don't get a relief rally to that. Honestly, even potentially starting next week. And yeah, that's essentially what I'm seeing, guys. So I do think short term, there's some bullish potential momentum setting up. Nothing is suggesting that fully just yet. And it's not like, there's not something in the chart or the candles or anything like that that makes me be like, yeah, it's guaranteed or something like that. Just based off of the momentum and just based off of, I guess patterns, if you will, and how things usually play out in these kind of markets, or just in general, really, regarding technical analysis. Whenever you break under something that was a massive resistance or support, you tend to get back to that level to kind of retest it for better or for worse, for for a bullish or bearish perspective or aspect or whatever. And then you either break through it and ended up being a false break up or down, or it ends up actually acting as the opposite now. So resistance becomes support and vice versa, and you continue the downward trend and the downward momentum. And that's essentially those two scenarios I just gave you guys that I personally think can happen, with the more plausible one, in my opinion, being a short-term relief rally to around 180-ish, and then we most likely get rejected, and we most likely either double bottom at 150 or make a new low until something really starts giving and something really starts showing us that yes, we are finally ready to start actually thinking about a overall true trend change for Tesla. But until we can break 180 and at the very least break out of this blue channel over here, we are absolutely without question still in a bearish trend. So yeah, all that being said and done, guys, let me know what you think down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you for the update video on Monday. Peace.